mean, at the end of it, what I understand is that the institutions of democracy, or whatever, whoever has the power to safeguard the democracy, are corrupt. Courts are corrupt, judges are corrupt. And judges, the way they give their verdict, it's all up to their interpretation of the law or constitution. And they can interpret in their own way. There is no objective. Now that everything is corrupt, you are saying that citizens have to raise their voice and get better. Then in a way we are expecting that everybody to be honest, non-corrupt, but are we all? It's like a philosophical question, sir, because we are, whatever is right, whatever has to set the things right, that is not setting things right. And we are saying everybody has to participate, everybody is correct.
I have understood your question. See, what I said was that the political parties have become corrupt. The judiciary also to a substantial extent has become corrupt. The media also to a substantial extent has become corrupt. But the majority of the citizens in this country are not corrupt. I say that repeatedly. They are neither corrupt nor communal. And they have the right kind of values. Unfortunately, what happens is, as I said, as I explained in the nature of our democracy, organizations which get a lot of money get elected to the help of that money. Small organizations of gundas and thugs, etc., they are able to intimidate much larger groups of people because they are well organized. The time has come for us also, for us common citizens who are not corrupt, not communal, etc., to also get organized. And then, once the citizens stand up, then all institutions start falling in place. Then we will be able to implement many of the institutional reforms which are required. But even without institutional reforms, many of these institutions change once they see that the citizens have become vigilant, the citizens are watching, the citizens will stand up and take action if we do anything wrong, then even institutions change. We have seen that happening from India.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Shanti Bhushan Rao, practicing advocate at High Court, sir. As a common citizen, after hearing to your words, my question is, as you said, the elected governments are corrupt, and previously there were campaigns against the judiciary also. As a common citizen, my question is, if all the mechanism established by us after independence, everything is corrupt, and the people's representatives are all corrupt, and now it's a call for the citizen to stand up. My question is, what is the means for the citizens to stand up against the establishment which is already in place and already as alleged corrupt, and the people's representative whom we elect with the hope that they will represent our concerns and they will fight for us. If they are also corrupt, then what is the alternative, sir? That's my question. Do we need to come as a political party, again a new one? One point more, sir. Even Aam Aadmi Party came with intellectuals as their backbone to come into limelight. And alleged herein, wherein the sir is sharing the stage, intellectuals from Usmania University and all the fraternities have supported the agitation and formed a party. Everybody is using the intellectuals to get onto the limelight and form a party. So what is your advice word to the citizens to come as a political party, or what else? That's my question.
So even without forming a political party, there is a lot that the citizens can do. See, if the citizens were vigilant, so one example of that would be, you form a citizens organization which just keeps track of corruption going on in the government and just exposes that corruption, just like the Citizen Whistleblower Forum that we have formed. Where, because there are always some honest people in every department. See, I don't say that everybody in the government is corrupt or everybody in the judiciary is corrupt, etc. There are many people in the judiciary who are very honest. There are many more people in the judiciary who are very hard-working. They are trying their best to do whatever they can, etc. There are many people, even in the government, who are very honest. There are a few people, even in the political parties, who are honest. But yes, it is true that the core of the establishment of the major mainstream political parties have become dishonest. But if the citizens were vigilant, that means they just keep track of what is happening and they expose everything that is happening. For example, yesterday or 2 days ago in the finance bill, many things were pushed in which could not have gone as a finance bill. It was totally illegal. If people keep track of these things, raise their voice on all these illegalities, corruption, communalism that is taking place. For example, when that Ramjas incident happened, students of Delhi University and JNU etc. took out a big counter march also, which then keeps these thugs and these lumpen elements in check. But they also feel that there are people who will stand up against this. There are people who will resist it. So that also plays a major role. If citizens are organized, vigilant and active, even without getting into electoral politics, even that plays a major role in setting things right. Of course, we need some people, some alternative political party also, which is involved in electoral politics. So both things need to be done at both levels. That is why the Swaraj Abhiyan has two organizations. One is a purely campaign organization and the other is a political party.
Hello, good evening everybody. My name is Pidiva. So I wanted to put a great question. Being advocate, we are there to defend our client and the whole country to safeguard certain rights of our citizens. When we say it before the media and everywhere that there is corruption existing in the dictionary, we are there to safeguard the rights of our client. When we give such words before the media and we say that our institution is totally corrupt, our judiciary is corrupt. Nowadays, it's a routine life of our advocates and the people who say that judges are corrupt. I saw in media several, one of our additional advocates in the High Court, saying that our institution is very corrupt. If such is the situation, what is the fate of our own citizens? The poor people who are approaching courts to get redress their problem, if they come to the conclusion that our judiciary is totally corrupt, why unnecessarily we are wasting our time to approach courts for redressing our disputes and problems? Why don't we come up with a conclusion? Instead of going before the media and exposing our own institution in a different way, and we go for a good manner, like exposing all these things?
See, the citizens of this country are the main stakeholders in a working judiciary because they need justice from the citizens. So, the citizens often are not privy to what is the real state of affairs in the judiciary. It is only lawyers and judges who are privy to the real state of affairs. And it is therefore the duty of lawyers and judges to say frankly as to what is the real state of affairs. Because unless people understand what is the real situation in the judiciary, there will not be any reforms. In order for there to be reforms, people need to have a good understanding. The lawyers by themselves are not going to bring about reform, nor judges. It's the people who are the real stakeholders who will put that requisite pressure to bring about judicial reform. And therefore they need to be informed about what is the real state of affairs. Whatever is the real state of affairs, if we know from inside as to what is really happening, how much corruption there is, how much other problems there are, we should say that, and frankly say that, and there should be no question of any contempt for saying that.
Sir, just wanted to understand, you mentioned that judiciary has been compromised or being compromised. What do you think this government has done? I mean, because the separate wing and there are so many things that's happening. Is it this government that has done something? Because there has been a sort of a conflict. So is it this government that has been pushing for that compromise or something like that? Because there are many judgments, just as Sahara Dairy case, Supreme Court said that this is not admissible evidence, or very strange coincidences in terms of Jayalalitha, whatever might happen. We don't know how much is really compromised and what is not. But what has the government, what is the role that this current system must play?
The current government has tried to have its own say in the matter of appointment of judges. So they have refused to appoint even those judges who have been unanimously recommended by the collegium of judges. They have stalled those appointments, etc. They have been pushing for a memorandum of procedure by which the government gets a veto on all appointments suggested by the judicial appointment by the collegium. This is one. Now Mr. Modi keeps saying that, you heard his statement, he said, Congress वाले ज़्यादा ना बोलें, मेरे पास सबकी जन्म पत्री है. What does that mean? He's saying that I know about the corruption of these Congress people. Therefore, they should not speak much, otherwise I will expose them or otherwise I will prosecute them. This is what he's saying. Now, question arises, is he doing the same thing with some of the judges also? In this Calico Pull case, I don't know how many of you have read the suicide note of the former Arunachal Chief Minister Calico Pull. Calico Pull was the Chief Minister of Arunachal for about 6 months, from January till July 2016. He was removed from the basis of a Supreme Court judgment which quashed the imposition of President's rule in Arunachal. After he was removed, he committed suicide within about 25 days. He committed suicide on the 9th of August. And he left a 60-page suicide note, which is signed on every page, in which he says that he is committing suicide because he is very despondent about the state of affairs in the polity and particularly in the judiciary in the country. And he names two former Chief Justices, present Chief Justice and the number 2 judge of the Supreme Court as having either received bribes or demanded bribes from him. He has also named the President as having received bribes from him, the present President of India, who was then the Finance Minister. Now here is the Chief Minister of a state who commits suicide, leave the 60-page signed on every page suicide note. That suicide note is with the authorities from the 9th of August. His wife runs from pillar to post for the last 8 months, 7 months, saying that this suicide note or the contents of this note need to be investigated. They are not investigating. Mr. Modi took no steps. The governor of that state wrote to the government of India that this needs a CBI investigation. Mr. Raj Boa was the governor of Arunachal who wrote to the government of India. No investigation. We moved the Supreme Court because investigation against the judge requires the sanction of the Chief Justice, and if the Chief Justice has been named, then the sanction of the other senior judges. On behalf of Mrs. Pull, he wrote a letter to the Chief Justice that you send it to the other senior judges so that they can give sanction. Nothing. He lists it before the number 13 bench. He treats it as a writ petition, lists it before the number 13 bench. And thereafter Mrs. Pull had to withdraw that application. And then she wrote to the Vice President. But the ball is squarely with the government of India. They are not bothering at all. Why? No BJP person or no major BJP person is named. So only the Congress people or the then Congress people or the judges are named. Why is he not investigating? Is he using the same blackmail that मेरे पास जन्मपत्री है सबकी? So therefore, this is the question, it's serious question which arises.
Sir, I am Dr. Gopinath. My question is, suppose a lower court gives a judgment, and this is just a lower court gives a judgment, and in the higher court it is disproved. Like in Kundur case here, like Perlanjan Maharaj, like Jayalalitha's case, or Salman Khan case. Suppose the lower court gives a wrong judgment, is he not punishable?
Everybody can give a wrong judgment. See, one thing is that what is wrong or right, nobody knows. It's a matter of point of view. Some people may think that this judgment, that is why there are many judgments which are split judgments. If you have a 5-member bench, then some members will say one thing, some other members will say something else. So what is right or wrong is not very clear. It's subjective to a very large extent. If a lower court judge gives a corrupt judge, then he can certainly be punished. If a lower court judge gives a judgment which is influenced by extraneous considerations, then he can be punished. But not merely for giving a judgment which some other people may consider wrong. Very often, the Supreme Court judgment may be wrong, and the lower court may have given the correct judgment. That happens many times. At least there are many cases that I am aware of. For example, that habeas corpus case during the emergency. Now 9 high courts said that habeas corpus is maintainable during the emergency. But Supreme Court said it is not maintainable. Now in my view, the high court was right, Supreme Court was wrong.
Respected members on the dais and my dear respected advocates, only simple question, sir. I am someone practicing advocate in JP Bank, Telangana High Court. Sir, my question is, as I belong to advocate family, what are the steps we are going to take to protect the advocate community, since many of the juniors are suffering with financial problems? This is my question, sir. And since I am associated with Faraj Abhiyan also, I am more interested in my family advocate community.
Sorry, I'm Ishwar Raya, retired professor of political science. I really appreciate the initiative and effort of the advocate here. Now, having said something about the organizational framework for the political parties and defects in the electoral system, what precautions we are going to take for making a better organized regarding your fund? we appreciate that you have struggled along, that we have gone through so many difficulties, no doubt about that. But what we have come up with, but really, what precautions you are going to take to avoid, that situations again, that problem again. Thank you.
Regarding your question about what can be done about advocates, see, if the judicial system improves, the condition of advocates also will improve. Bar Council also needs to improve. Today, the Bar Council unfortunately has become a trade union of lawyers. The result is that they are not taking any action against lawyers who are committing professional misconduct. There are a large number of lawyers who are committing professional misconduct. No action is being taken against them. All kinds of unfair, corrupt practices are going on even at the hands of the lawyers. No action is being taken by the Bar Council against these corrupt lawyers. You need to, in order for the honest and especially younger honest members of the bar to prosper, firstly you need proper systems of judicial, advocates accountability. Secondly, you need a working judiciary. So there needs to be serious judicial reforms. Once there is a working judiciary, there are more courts, more cases are decided, quickly decided, etc. Junior lawyers also and other lawyers also will get more work. But yes, there is a larger problem which I understand. That's something which we can discuss at some length. It's not an issue that we can discuss here. On the other question of what can be done to ensure that a alternative political party really remains an alternative. So there are four broad elements of an alternative political party. Number one, it must have robust systems of internal democracy. Number two, it should have robust systems of transparency. Number three, it should have robust systems of accountability. And number four, that party should have some think tanks, etc., which discuss important issues of our times facing the country, facing society, arrive at proper policies on those issues, and advocate those policies. That is also an essential characteristic of a truly alternative political party. So those four things have to be ensured. There may be other things also, but at least those four minimum things have to be ensured.
Now I request Professor Kodanram to speak.